Next, we're going to talk about thyme, Thymus vulgaris, another one of my favorite plants. You'll probably hear me say this each time. Thyme is a very powerful medicinal plant. It's a carminative, so it helps with digestion. It's antimicrobial, antispasmodic, which helps soothe muscles in our body. It's a great expectorant, astringent, and then some of its special qualities is that it's a vermifuge, which means it helps with parasites, and it's also helps if you have any kind of intestinal worms or issues with that. So it kind of gets those little critters out of our system. I also like to take a formula with thyme in it if I'm traveling, to areas where there might be these issues in terms of the common illnesses found in that place. So I'll always take some kind of digestive aid and some restorative herbs, and thyme will be a part of that group. It's a great antitussive, so good for when you have a cough. It's also a nervine, so it helps tonify your nervous system, regulate and calm your nervous system. Very mild sedative, so I would say a mild calming properties. Emmenagogue, great herb for when you're having your menstrual cycle, and very strong antifungal. Thyme is best harvested when it's a little bit dry. So if you have your own plants, you can kind of control this. I know if we buy it in the store, it comes as it comes. And I find also thyme when I buy it in the store, it's often been overwatered prior to picking. And that's usually just to make it look better in the container or the package. But typically you want to pick thyme when it's a little bit dry or on a dry day. It makes taking the leaves off the stem a lot easier. So that's a little herbalist tip there. And also, typically the harvesting season is June through August if you're growing your own. Thyme I love because it's a great herb to include if you have a family member who's not feeling well or is fighting a cold or has some stomach issues. Thyme is a nice herb to sprinkle on their meal, on their salad, on their main dish to kind of calm those issues. Internally, thyme has a wonderful respiratory focus. So helps with acute and chronic respiratory issues, helps release mucus from the lungs and help the lungs clean themselves. That way, it relaxes bronchial passages. It relieves an irritable cough and sore throat. Really great for people who are dealing with emphysema. And then it has these beautiful digestive benefits as well, including helping with gastritis, dealing with diarrhea, various stomach and intestinal infections. So again, something you could do as a strong tea. Like this is where if you were dealing with some of these issues, you would make that strong cup of tea that we talked about earlier, drink that 4 times a day, 4 different intervals throughout the day. And when I'm doing this at home, I use the method of making a strong jar of tea. I'll get a quart-sized jar, and you could use one of those ball quart jars that are 32 ounces, or just recycle another jar that you have that's about that volume. Add my 1 ounce of dry herb to that, fill it up with boiling water, let it steep until it naturally cools itself, and then divide that into 4 servings throughout the day. And again, you could mix some other herbs into this and have it be a varied tea. But if you're going through a lot of these lung bronchial issues and digestive issues, then I would certainly make the focus on thyme. Topically, thyme is excellent for joint and muscle pain, inflammation, sprains, bruising. And one thing I really also like about thyme is, again, if you've got a cold or a flu, it's often suggested to do that steam inhalation where you take a pan with boiling water, add, say, eucalyptus drops, and then you put your head over the steam with a towel over it and inhale that. Well, I always find that the eucalyptus is a little too strong for my skin and even sometimes my sinuses, especially if they're inflamed and I'm not feeling well. So thyme is an excellent substitute in this way. So you can do that steam inhalation with the essential oil of thyme, maybe some fresh whole thyme herb as well, and use that in place of the eucalyptus when you're not feeling well. Here's a fun one. The traditional use of thyme, back again in the days of yore, was in an herb pillow to help people who are suffering from nightmares. And back in days of our past, herb pillows were very common, a lot more common than today, and they were larger. They would be like a larger pillow or a kind of a small pillow to us now, and they would be filled with different botanicals, various medicinal botanicals. You would make new herb pillows pretty regularly to deal with certain issues, and thyme is excellent for nightmares, so that might be an herb you put in if you're suffering from not sleeping well because of that. But you could also add herbs for like finding a spouse or getting rid of bad spirits. A lot of times they also included a lot of anti-parasitic or bug repelling properties because the bedding was made out of more natural materials. So you wanted to keep any kind of insects out of your bed as well. So you would formulate your herb pillow including those types of plants also. But the herb pillows, when you read stories about all the different types of herb pillows made back then, it's super fun. They had them for everything. Next, we're going to talk about thyme essential oil. This is a very powerful, very antibacterial essential oil. It's great for so many things. But before we get into its properties, I want to talk about how to dilute an essential oil into a carrier oil for you to use at home. You do not want to put any of these essential oils directly on the skin. They're just too strong. So what you need to do is you need to dilute them down into a carrier oil. So that means you're going to add it to olive oil, sesame, sunflower. Here I have a sweet almond oil in this beaker. We have 2 ounces in here. And we're going to make 3 different dilution levels so you can see how that's done. And the first one will be for large areas of the body. The second one will be for smaller areas of the body. And the third will be to spot treat areas on the body, like little spots like bug bites or little scratches, breakouts, things like that. And the dilution levels that we're looking at here are 1%, 2%, and 3% for each of those categories. And an easy way to measure out the correct dilution of the essential oil to the carrier oil on a per ounce basis is just remember 6 drops per ounce equals 1%. So in this little beaker here that we're going to first do for a whole body application, I want to start with 0.5%. So that's going to be 3 drops per ounce, 6 drops for this whole beaker. And this will be perfect for like a body oil. And then now we're going to step it up to do something that would be for the chest and neck area. Then we will go with 12 drops per ounce. That is a 2% dilution, and that's going to be 24 drops for this whole beaker. And remember, when you're making these oil blends at home, you can mix it up. You can add some of the other herbs that we talk about today. Maybe you have lavender on hand that you like. You want to add some of that in. That's fine. You can mix. Just stay within these quantities. And then we're going to go up to a 3% dilution, which is 18 drops per ounce, which would be 36 drops for this 2-ounce beaker of sweet almond oil. And this is literally just for spot treating issues that are coming up at that moment. So back to the thyme essential oil and its properties. It's very antibacterial. A light concentration can be good for breakouts and acne. So like we just talked about, you could add a couple drops to that Thai basil toner that you made, that we just talked about. If you make 4 ounces of that, you could add 6 drops to the whole batch, and that would just be a nice light dose that you could add to the face. I would maybe start with 3 drops and then work up to 6 depending on how your skin, the type of your skin, how your skin's handling that. But that would be a great addition to that oil balancing, breakout prone skin type, and something that you can easily make at home. It also helps aid with digestion. So again, what we just talked about on making your own oil at home, you could make a more gentle version and massage that onto your belly after a big meal, or massage that onto your belly if you're prone to digestive issues. after you eat, and that'll just kind of help calm down and ease cramping after a meal. Just calm down your whole digestive tract. It will still work properly. It's just going to calm everything down a little bit. Great for bronchial health, which we already talked about. It's a great detoxifier for the body. And thyme also helps relieve stress and anxiety. And as we spoke about doing a little spot treatment for bug bites, it's a great natural insect repellent. And antibacterial properties make it excellent for homemade hand sanitizer. So this is your really good friend when you're spending time in the outdoors, if you're camping, doing a lot of stuff in your backyard, or at a community park for a barbecue, things like that. You can have thyme on hand in case any little critters get a bite in, or you can use it in your homemade hand sanitizer. So very versatile.